Welcome to Ravensdale Bible Academy. Today's course is Fake News from our Think Again Christian series. Today's lesson is on comedy and satire in fake news. And so, what do we mean by that? Well, one of the things that we've seen as a new and I think probably the most dangerous form of fake news is in this form of comedy satire. The reason why I think it's dangerous is because, yes, we've always had comedy satire. Saturday Night Live has been on for years, and they've poked fun and made fun and used comedy in politics and news, and that's fine. But one of the things was Saturday Night Live came on at midnight, and it was for adults, and it was really well known that this is for fun, this is for comedy's sake. Now we see new shows that have an intention of having, a serious political agenda, posing themselves as real news, but they're on comedy channels. And so it gives the illusion that they're actually legitimate news sources when what they would say is, oh, no, we're just comedy. Well, they're playing both sides of the fence at this time. And so today, in our lazy attitude and our entertainment-driven attitude, a lot of our politics go through and come from pop culture, entertainment, movies, sports figures, and especially now this new form of comedy and satire and cartoons. That's one of the things that really frustrates me, is that the cartoons have a specific agenda of going after young minds. Now think about this. If you were trying to attack a young person's mind when you have a disadvantage of your age, that's abuse, right? That's a form of child abuse. It really is a cowardly way of trying to win approval and win your point, which is why we had to create this course so that young minds could use critical thinking skills in order to fight off this fake news. Acts 17:11 talks about the Bereans, right? The Bereans being, more noble-minded to see if it's so. You have to dig. You have to study. That's a biblical concept. It's a good concept. And we're seeing more and more now that, even at the junior high school level, our students need to be trained how to identify fake news by looking through, what fraud is, by identifying what logical fallacies are. And so today's lesson is on identifying through comedy and satire fake news. I mentioned before, this isn't really new. Orwell wrote the book Animal Farm, where he, has this book, and it's a good example of satire. It's a novel that is targeting communism, and is specifically the Russian Stalin regime, and it uses animals and it uses anthropomorphism, right? But it's entirely a political satire, and it has deep political thinking behind it. And so this is not a new form of expressing an opinion or a thought on certain positions, but we're seeing it more and more, and it's covered, it's cloaked. Animal Farm was never designed to pretend like it was just a story of barn animals. In these days, we see some programs like the Daily Show. The Daily Show, Jon Stewart was part of it. Now it's Trevor Noah. And again, they're comedians who have emerged as, interpreters of the news. They're always liberal. They're always defending democratic viewpoints. And so their comedy is always heavily slanted towards the left. So that in and of itself should be an indicator that this is a political agenda, that this is not real, it's not honest, it's not legitimate, it's fake. It's fake news. And they're using comedy to pull it off as though they're, somehow, not accountable for their fake news. We saw somebody, another comedian, late night talk show host, Samantha Bee, and she insulted the president of the United States' daughter with an absolutely horrific, obscene phrase that we can't even say. And so instead of calling it for what it is, slander, and she should have been fired, it's just comedy. It's just comedy. So when they want to present it as real journalism or real news, and their views should be taken seriously, um, you know, that's what they want. But then if you don't agree with them, then they back off and say, well, we're just being funny. We're just being funny. We've seen a lot of television shows, and I mentioned that now there's a lot of these cartoons, and they're for adults, but let's not pretend ourselves. Kids are drawn into this. They're cartoons, for Pete's sakes. They're on the internet. They're on cable, and so kids have access to these types of shows. And we see it with The Simpsons. We've seen it with this show called South Park, which I don't recommend and I don't watch. But they use a lot of political satire. You can see in this one they're making fun of masks, and the spacing behind the chairs, and the glass bubbles for protection. And so it doesn't matter if you're for or against that position. They're using comedy, and they're using humor to present political viewpoints, and that's a dangerous thing, and that's why it's fake. It's not real, and like I mentioned before, we're seeing this in a lot of different ways through Instagram. We see it through Facebook. We see a lot of new mediums that are now being used as tools to share untrue news at the expense of or the framing of, well, this is comedy. It's you've had friends like this. I'm just joking. You spread gossip and a lie about somebody that hurts them and has a ripple effect, but then you back out, I was just kidding. Well, that doesn't really work now, does it? And so we need to train our minds not to turn off because we think we're just watching a TV show, just because we're watching comedy or satire. We have to be able to identify that they're trying to present to us legitimate news when really it's just fake news.